sort of this conflict saw the excessive use of misinformation and disinformation. One thing that played to Pakistan's favor throughout this conflict is that we were transparent and we managed to maintain our credibility. We were transparent with the media, we were transparent with our public, and we were transparent with our allies. The events collaborate what we say. Three people are making claims in this situation: Pakistan, the United States, and India. Two of us are saying one thing, one of them is saying something else. So I think it's sort of, you can try to figure out who's telling the truth. India employed disinformation not only during this conflict, they continue to employ disinformation as part of their delegation's tour. They lied to the international community and their own people about this terrorist attack. They were unable, to this day, they haven't shared either with the media, with their allies, or with Pakistan, who they fought a war with, who the terrorists were that were involved in this incident in Indian-occupied Kashmir. They have not been honest or forthcoming about the damages they sustained during this conflict. They still, to this day, refuse to admit how many airplanes they lost in this conflict. You can see who's had the same line consistently, whose views are being corroborated by the statements made not only from the presidency, but also from the State Department. Marco Rubio's tweet on the night of the ceasefire, after he spoke to all sides, includes three important points. Not only obviously reference to the immediate ceasefire, but also an indication about future conversations at a neutral territory covering all friction points. So, I mean, I guess that's the answer to my question. Pakistan prides itself on its transparency during this period. We're still sort of open to questions and probing on the facts. India has relied on disinformation throughout this conflict. Even during the war, the Indian media played the role of fake news and amplified some of this disinformation that originated from the Indian government.
Sure. It's Ellen McMyer with the Associated Press. Thank you for doing that. The fact that the conflict is between two nuclear-armed countries. No, Pakistan was not asked anything to do with nuclear questions, full stop, let alone no first use during this conflict. Pakistan did not have to rely on its nuclear arsenal or the threat of its use of its nuclear arsenal to establish military dominance during this conflict. As far as future obligations or future commitments, I think the important first step is to build on this ceasefire, work towards a comprehensive dialogue where we can address any and all issues in an environment of peace outside of these hostilities where our neighbor is threatening to cut off our water supply. They call the ceasefire a pause, not a ceasefire. They call the ceasefire a trailer and expect us to wait for the movie. Their prime minister is giving speeches where he says, I have a message for the youth of Pakistan: eat bread or eat my bullet. I think in that environment, perhaps that's not the most conducive to take revisions of our, come up with revisions of our policy. However, I believe if we start moving towards peace, then there will be lots of steps that both sides could take to ensure that our neighborhood is a safer place.
So here in the U.S., I would say there's a perception that the historical relationship between Pakistan and the United States is slowly withering away, that the United States is now trying to transition to a close relationship with India, and that in turn China is coming and taking Yusuf's place in Pakistan, and then that's adding a whole new dynamic. So as a delegation that came here to strengthen the relationship between Pakistan and the United States, how would you respond to that characterization?
Look, as far as Vacuums being created. There's no doubt that once the US started to pay less attention to Pakistan, that creates a vacuum. Nature detests a vacuum, and other people take that space. I do believe that the United States is reconsidering its historic approach, or its approach in and around the fall of Kabul. We're talking investment, we're talking minerals, we're talking crypto, we're talking tech, we're talking agriculture. So that's moving in a positive direction. I will say that India has pitched itself as a net security provider for the region, and American taxpayer dollars go into subsidizing the Indian economy and the Indian military-industrial complex in exchange for it supposedly providing this net security provider role. I believe this 5 days of conflict has exposed India. It is not a net security provider. It is a source for insecurity in South Asia, and as a result, insecurity in the region and the globe. They brought the threshold for military armed conflict between Pakistan incredibly low. They launched a war on the basis of a lie, and then they couldn't even win that war, and the US had to intervene and ask and facilitate a ceasefire. I believe the real net security provider, or the foundations for a real net security provider in South Asia, would be for peace to be established between India and Pakistan. That would provide the stability in the region that is so desperately required.